Welcome, everybody. Dr. Josh Long here with AME Podcast, my quest to talk to folks who are doing lifelong learning and music engagement. These are the folks who are either playing or performing or helping others make music, what I call behind and beyond the classroom. It's so exciting. We're sponsored by Art and Music Emporium, serving artistic excellence. We do such things as fix instruments. We also do music lessons, and we do quite a bit of performance initiatives lately, which has been very fun for us. One being our annual Community Band by the Sea in Wildwood, New Jersey, which for 2026 will be our sixth time doing it already, as well as the Bethlehem Steel Company Legacy Band down in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, where we recreate the company band for the steel company. And we have done two performances of that. And we also do tuba Christmases. And I'm actually in the midst of preparing for that. And I just realized that we have done that for 19 years already. I can't believe it. It's just time flies by. All of these events that we have is accessible for anybody, meaning that you can actually sign up. And we do have a rehearsal just before the event for Tuba Christmas. The concerts, we tend to have the rehearsal the day before. So anybody can be involved with it, even if you're not close. And you can find more information about that at www.artmusicemporium.com. We are also on Facebook, so do give us a like there. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. We do release more podcasts and other programs that we do via YouTube, so watch that as well. And we are also on Patreon. Our Patreon account, you'll see down in the comments section, anything that you get from that, we get from that, from the Patreon account, all goes to helping others continue making music beyond the classroom, what I call lifelong learning in music education. I'm so excited about our next guest. I actually met her while I was doing a visiting position up in New Hampshire, getting involved, as I always do, with the community band world. I met this great private teacher, freelance musician. She's also the community band director for the Nelson Town Band, as well as runs the Monadnock New Horizons band program along with another individual. And she, I know, is very involved with keeping people engaged in music education. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to kind of pick her brain. Please welcome Donna Morse. How you doing, Donna?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
This is
definitely.
fun.
Yeah, I always like talking to like-minded individuals who, have this great idea of doing these different things. And I know I wanted to get a little bit into what you're doing with other folks in the community band world and community world in general. But I thought I'd first ask you a few questions about how'd you gotten into music? And I always say it with this as a disclaimer, I know it could be a couple years ago. We'll just say it that way. But whatever
It
you
could
want to
be.
share is great.
Yeah, so actually things started, I was very young. I started piano lessons at 7 or 8. My mom's a music teacher, was a retired music teacher in Miami, Florida. So I grew up in Miami. And she was actually, by the time I was in high school, was the superintendent of music for all of Dade County. So I was always involved in music. I was involved by the time I got in seventh grade, I was playing clarinet and auditioning and playing in the school band. And bands are huge down there. Marching band is huge down there. Football was huge. So everything was big. And I, auditioned for all the district bands and I did that. My mom worked very hard as a music teacher, mostly trying to just keep her job, which at
Okay.
the time they were trying very hard to eliminate music in the schools. So I stuffed a
Yep.
lot of envelopes for her lobbying efforts for the state of Florida. So anyway, that was my beginnings. I played all through college. I was actually not a music major. I was a business major.
Oh,
I have a
cool.
management finance degree from Bucknell in central Pennsylvania. And so, but I continued to play.
Yeah.
When I got out of school, I actually worked on Wall Street for a few years.
Oh,
And
wow.
that was when I discovered I really did not want to do that at all. That was, to me, it was just not the direction I wanted to go. It didn't give me enough creative freedom.
Okay.
And
Mhm.
I just felt like I
Sure.
was just a cog in the wheel. And I know that can be interesting for people, but for
Sure.
me, I didn't want to do a lot of the things that they thought that we should be doing. I really
Right.
wanted to do my own stuff.
Cool.
I was actually went back into music again, started studying flute and eventually saxophone. My kids were very young, so I was home with them. And at some point, when we moved to New Hampshire, I actually met Scott Mullet, was a world-class saxophone player who lived here, who grew up here, moved away, came back to take care of his father in his last years, and I started lessons on saxophone. And he's actually the one that's got me started teaching again.
Oh,
I said
wow.
I really want to teach, and he got me my first position. Um, but I was still playing all along. And when we moved to Keene, New Hampshire, the first thing that happened was that I was approached by somebody who heard a rumor that I had played clarinet. And they literally told me that day, I will pick you up at 4 o'clock. There's a rehearsal in Nelson, New Hampshire, and you're coming with me. And that's how I got involved back in playing in bands.
Wow.
Before that, we lived in North Carolina. I didn't really have a lot of community band opportunities at that
Okay.
time down there. Think there's more now, but there weren't so many when I was there. So that's really how I got back into music, from being in a little on the
Yeah.
sidelines and then back in again. But I've been teaching for 25 years, at least more than 25, a lot of years, a lot of years. But the Nelsontown Band, one of the things that it did for me is that they really didn't have a conductor. They mostly
Okay.
played parade marches to
Okay.
drums, that type of thing. And then the group decided they wanted to do some more complex music
Okay.
that needed conducting.
Yeah.
I said, I'll give it a try. And I had played in orchestras, I had played in a
Yeah.
lot of other groups, and I said, if you'll be patient with me, I'll give it a try. The band was small, and that's actually when I started conducting. I really came from, I guess you could say, the grassroots type of,
Yeah.
yeah, sort of. The School of Hard Knocks is how I learned how to conduct. And I did a lot of, it's great how much you can learn by being in groups, though, and working for
Mhm.
different conductors, playing for different conductors.
Yeah.
I learned a lot. I learned a lot by watching and listening, and saying, boy, that's a really great way to do that. Or boy, I will never use those words to a group. You learn lots of things from all of
Yeah.
that. So
Mhm.
that's basically was my kind of, fast track kind of musical journey through many, many years, but that's sort of the short story of
The
it.
short story. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if I may ask, and I know you made a comment that you didn't really stop necessarily playing, and I just wanted to ask a little bit about that. I know you took a job on Wall Street, so and this is kind of the interesting thing I always ask. So you mentioned about creativity. What did you how did that feel when you weren't having that? I guess that's I kind of like to go there just to see you had that need, which you're doing it today, and you seem very satisfied doing the things that you're
Mhm.
doing, and you were missing that piece in the puzzle in your life. And I was just interested in if you could remember what that either felt like or what is, and I know you mentioned it as being creativity, but if you just wanted to share anything more about that, I guess I'll ask it that way.
I think it's my own type of creativity because there
Okay.
certainly was some creativity in the jobs that I was doing.
Sure.
I was working in
Yeah.
finance in a bank, and there's certainly things that people
Sure.
create in those jobs. But well, mostly it was boring to me, even though it wasn't difficult. Some of it wasn't, but I mean, some of it could be challenging. But I had no interest in going that direction. It's really
Hmm.
hard for me to do it when I don't have any interest. So I found myself daydreaming a lot, a lot. And I also like having a little bit more control over my schedule. And commuting into New York and then later into parts of New Jersey, I just didn't want to be there. And it's hard to explain, except I was bored. I
As
was
bored,
really
yeah.
bored.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was really looking for something. I do a lot of sewing. I've
Mhm.
always done art, music stuff all along. We did do some pit orchestras when I was working. My very first pit orchestra was Milk and Honey at the
Oh,
Jewish Community Center in Bayonne, New Jersey.
wow.
And we played for it. So every time I would do those things, I would think, oh, this is what I really like. I
Mhm.
really like doing this. But the truth of why I didn't go into music in school is actually interesting because it wasn't that I didn't want to at all.
Mhm.
It was Florida's very competitive, and I thought, well, I can possibly perform. I know I made all state, but I mean, it's really competitive. It's a big
Mhm.
state, and And then I said, well, I could teach, but I do not want to fight for my job my whole life. And
Mhm.
so some of it was my mom's experience. Not that she did anything. She would have been fine with me going into music, but I just watched the music teachers that were friends of my mom and her colleagues and people who worked for her. And all they did was fight for their job, fight for their students, fight to keep the schedule, keep music in the schedule, all of that. And I thought, boy, do I really want to get in, maybe I wouldn't even have a job. So
Yeah.
some of the reason I didn't go into music was because I didn't want to, I didn't know if it would last. I
Yeah.
didn't know if
Yeah.
it would go anywhere. I mean, I was very naive at 18 too, but
Yeah.
that's how
Yeah.
it is.
We all
Right.
are. Well,
Right. Right.
one thing I'm thinking about when you're saying this, and this is, I think before we started the podcast, and we had the conversation about how it is that way still. I mean, there's still music teachers are still fighting for students and trying to get. I mean, it hasn't really changed,
Mm,
And yet,
true.
I think about this all the time. How much music can mean to somebody. You know what I mean? And I'm going to ask this, and then I have another part to this question. Like, what does it mean to you as far as that? Just to the point of you made a comment, again, the creativity part of it, but it's doing something to you that made you want to be there. And I was just wondering if you had any thoughts a little bit about that. And then, like I said, I have a part two to that question, but we'll ask that first.
Oh, that's a interesting question. I think that to me, it's just all encompassing
Mhm.
and it just fuels me completely. I think the best example of that is that when I'm at a rehearsal, um, or in a performance, I completely lose track of time. I have no idea what time we finished. I know when we start because you tell me when to be there. But after that, it's just the time is just away. It's like I am totally in the moment. And I love that all encompassing feeling. I love that feeling of being so involved in something that the rest of the world disappears.
Mhm.
And I can just completely be engrossed in it. I find conducting to be very much like that. I feel like it just surrounds you and it becomes part of you.
Mhm.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a good enough
No,
explanation
no.
to
Like I said, there's
see.
no right or wrong answer here. You know,
Right, right,
it,
right.
it's just very interesting to me because I agree with you. I think it's something about, you're kind of it's just something more than what we normally do. I guess that's the best way I always describe it sometimes. Like, and you said that it's something where, time stands still or you're so engrossed in it. It's not nothing else. I mean, you just don't like nothing around you, meaning not the music, but beyond that, anything around where you are doesn't matter at that point, and that's that kind of surreal world, and it's interested you explain it that way because the reason why I asked that is just, this is something to think about, and I know teachers fight for this and all of this kind of things all the time. And I will say this, not to be negative. I know what's the first thing to get cut in budgets? Of course, arts. That's the first thing that goes out, right? Yet we get that kind of feeling, and we can look in history of music all the way down to, the beginning of time about how it's helped people. And, and I part two of my question to this is kind of like how you made yourself go back to that as a teacher, right? But I know you're not, you're more in the community. I get that. But how you got to that to share to others. And I was just interested if you want to share a little bit about what your passion is with that, of how, bringing, I guess, what you like about music to this world, of what your
Hmm.
studio, your private students, your ensembles, which we'll talk about a little bit about more in a second. But just wondering if you have any thoughts of that.
So what I remember when my kids were young, and we were moving. They were very
Yeah.
young when we moved from the Carolinas up to New England. And when we were in North Carolina, I interviewed for a bank job. I don't even know if my second son was born yet, so it was right about that time.
Uh-huh.
And I went for the interview and came home and said, I really hope I don't get this job. And so a few times during as the kids were growing up and my husband had a job, we moved for his job. He was
Mhm.
transferred down to the Carolinas from New Jersey. And he said, well, what do you want to do? I said, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure, but I think it's going to come to me. And
Mhm.
and which of course didn't really satisfy my engineering husband. That's not an answer. He needed a concrete answer, and I
Yep.
didn't have a
I
concrete
get it.
answer. I
Mhm.
think when I came up here and started playing saxophone and started learning theory and started sitting in a lesson, I think I was like, this is what I want to do. I
Mhm.
just knew this is what I want to do. I do love to teach. I think conducting is teaching also.
Oh
So
yeah,
I
me
do,
too.
yeah, I think it's all teaching,
Yeah.
even if it's a performance-based type of
Hmm.
situation.
Hmm.
And I love teaching. I love teaching students. I love when they um, come to a second lesson and they're better than the first lesson. And I'm like, yes, yes, you did it. When they tell me they can't do something and then they do it, I think it's really satisfying. Or when I turn on a light bulb and all of a sudden they get it. And I'm thinking,
Hmm.
this is why I do it. I love doing that. I love trying to impart knowledge. I really enjoy the challenge of trying to bring music to different learners. So,
Hmm.
private lessons have the unique advantage of
Hmm.
you having a one-on-one time with figuring out how does a student learn and how do I need to motivate the student? It's going to be different than the one before because they
Hmm.
learn differently, their passions are in different places, and how can I catch that? So, yeah, I'm not sure I knew how I knew that that's what I wanted to do. But when I started taking lessons, I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do.
Yeah, that's awesome that it kind of clicked, you know. And the reason I'll share this with you, I know I actually went for computer science, sort of businessy kind of computer science when I first went to Penn State, and I had this really, really bad withdrawal, when I was there because I didn't want. I'm just like you, I didn't really want to be there, It's and I joined a community band, of course, and I didn't even have an instrument at that time because I borrowed one from the school. But I always tell this story that it just I knew I wanted to do something in that field, and then when I started doing it, clicked. And it's just
Right.
interesting to kind of hear you say that too. It's just like I totally get that with you. So, um,
Yeah, that's
so
definitely it.
yeah, and that's awesome. And speaking of that, I know you got into kind of more teaching, and then you got in more in the town band, and we'll talk about the New Horizons band in a second. But when you got into teaching, you explained this a little bit already, how you like to help folks with different learning or different ways of doing that, because not every person's the same, as we know, and especially they might want to learn certain different things and those kind of things within the instruments. But what's been your motivation to the help folks in the community as being a private teacher and as also helping the town band, obviously the Nelson Town band, move on to that complex music.
Well, I think that it's funny that you say that because I'm not sure if my motivation is musical
Okay,
or if it's more community oriented.
sure.
Because one of the things that keeps us all together is being together,
Mhm.
which has made the pandemic so difficult because online is just not together.
Yep.
And so, what motivates me to do complex things is that I think people enjoy the shared experience. Lessons are one thing, that's another. We're sharing that experience too, but in a community group, I think people like the challenge of the shared experience of doing something they didn't think they could do or that they knew was going to be difficult. And I think in most community bands, that sum of the parts is a real amazing part of any community group because you're usually, in most cases, not all cases, have a non-auditioned band. So you have people at really differing levels of
Hmm.
music,
Yeah.
and you need to bring them all together where they are, from where they are to where they can make really good music. But what really motivates me is that I love the people that get involved in music. And so in a way, the music is sort of the vehicle for the community. It's like my husband sometimes says a salad is the vehicle to having salad dressing. Like you really want salad dressing, so you have to have a salad.
Yep.
So it isn't that the music isn't important because it's really important to me and it's
Sure.
important to everybody there. But I think that if you had the music without the community, it probably wouldn't work.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, and it's interesting
Yeah.
you go to the community because and I'm kind of like that too. It's like when I think it's the interaction with people, that
Hmm.
I think is what you're kind of really getting motivated with. And whether you call it a family or your friends or whoever they are, or just the people that are in the band, it's just you learn so much from each other. And I think you're, and of course you're driving right to the music, whatever your performance is, whatever you're going to do.
Right,
But it's just very interesting to me hear you say that it's not always just the music. It's more than that. And I think it's more than, I sometimes even think it's more than just the community too. There's just so many different aspects of it, you know?
right. For sure. When the 2022, 2021, 2022, when our community band was getting back together, one of the things that we put to the side was, and this doesn't involve everybody in the group, but anybody who wants to, we would often stop after a concert and get some food, get some drinks, get some ice cream, whatever it was that was on the way home. And I remember at the end of that, and we didn't do that, and most people weren't doing that at the time. Must have been 2021, and they weren't just going out to restaurants.
Mhm.
And I had a number of people say to me, "Well, it's nice to be playing, but I really miss these after." Times just to able to connect, and sometimes they're connecting musically. I mean, sometimes they're connecting about the music and about the concert that we just played. You're right; it's about
Mhm.
a lot more than
Yeah.
just the music or the community. I mean, the music is what brings everybody together.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the community is what keeps everybody together. Because I've certainly been in some music groups where I didn't have connection with people, and I could even find myself losing interest sometimes
Hmm.
when I
Yeah.
didn't have that connection with the people that were
Yeah.
there with me.
Yeah, I know. I shared this, obviously before our podcast, but I always say this because I get asked this question all the time. I do quite a bit of parades, which is, active walking, marching, and I just shared, this past weekend it was about a 4 mile parade, right? And I joke all the time, I have family members who say to me, "Why would you do that?" And it's just because it's more than that. And of course, I do like exercise. Okay, I get that. I will say that, but it's so many different aspects. It's talking to the band members. It's, playing music. It's being there. I don't know. There's just so many elements of it. And that's why I always try to find out what it is, because that's like been my quest since my dissertation, just why people participate, why people get involved, because, we don't have to be doing this, so,
Right, right, exactly.
and
I think that's a question that's hard to answer, but
yeah,
except for, do we don't march in parades because I don't really like exercise as much as you do.
got it.
But
And that's
but
okay.
we have that trailer that we
Yeah,
do, and it is kind of a lot of hurry up and wait for parades. It's
it is.
it's it's not it's in a way a kind of a pain thing to plan,
Hmm.
but being in a parade and seeing the little kids pointing up at you and people cheering from the side and taking photos and just having a good time with their families. I mean, that's also really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's that interaction. I always say that audience interaction. I mean,
Hmm.
it's nice to hear them, to hear the sounds, and like hopefully they're pointing, they're saying, "Oh, maybe I'll do that someday." You know?
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
It's just very interesting. So anyway, I want to ask a little bit more about the, Nelson Town Band. I know you've been doing more complex music, and I was just interested. I'm going to talk to you as a conductor now. What you do with the group, as far as to kind of move them forward, challenge them, motivate them. I mean, obviously, you made a comment about more complex mu music, so we get that. So it's just interested in what kind of couple things that you might do, or how you don't have to give away all your secrets.
I don't know if I have any secrets.
I say the same. But just interested in kind of, how you keep, keep the interest there. I mean, I know that there's the social aspect in the music, but I was just interested in what you had to share.
So one of the things over the last probably 10 years, the band started out doing a lot of marches. We have all the Sousa marches
Hmm.
and typical band type of thing. But I really enjoy uh, delving into some different music. When you're doing a community band, you have to balance what your players enjoy. Of course, it has to be something I enjoy. It's hard to
Of
conduct a
course.
piece I don't enjoy.
Yep.
There aren't that many out there, but there are some.
Yep.
And then I also have to appeal to an audience,
Hmm.
and my audiences are pretty varied. I mean, we play all over the place. It's not the same audience all the time. We don't play in one spot every week like some
Hmm.
do, which would have similar audiences each week. We have very different audiences each
Hmm.
week, each time we play. So in the last 10 years, I've put a lot of effort into diversifying the music style. for the band, challenging them with more difficult rhythmic things, especially multicultural things. A lot of some world music. Music that's there's a couple of composers now that do music that's um, based in some of the Japanese composers that
Hmm.
have some really interesting concert band music right now. There's one in Texas that pulls mariachi into his
Oh,
music a lot,
oh, that's
which I
cool.
love.
Yeah.
So I attended a professional development event from a professor at SUNY Fredonia,
Hmm.
who who keeps a database. I assume still does that with graduate students for diverse composers around the world of all sort, whatever diversity.
Yeah.
And what I thought was really interesting is that they did a little bit of a back study, an informal study of
Hmm.
programs
Okay.
of different groups that were using more diverse composers to find out, are they eliminating anybody that
Sure.
because of that, or whatever the situation is. And what they found was um, that all composers, a full diverse range of composers, were being played by these bands. But what they were actually dropping was some of the old composers, some of the old pieces. So they were
Hmm.
putting them in their programs, but it wasn't all it wasn't all Von Williams, and it wasn't
Yeah.
all Holst, and it
Yeah.
it wasn't all the old band music. And
Hmm.
so they were bringing in all of this new music. So I decided that's where I was going, even though the band had been very traditional and doing very
That's
traditional
cool.
music and some medleys of things. Medleys are not always my favorite to conduct. Well, some of them are very good, but once in a while you get a medley which has five songs in it, and I only like three of them. And so, I really don't want to do that one. So I've been bringing in more concert band music, but not going to the point where the audience is lost.
Mhm.
So kind of drawing that line in between. I
Yeah.
think people like it. I did a lot of really good comments after the concert, and I think the band really likes it because one of the things it does is it appeals to all the sections of the band.
Yeah.
I think if a traditional concert band, particularly if they have a very big march emphasis, will
Hmm.
lose their French horns after a while.
Yeah.
They will be like, I'm done with this. I am done playing offbeat.
Uh-huh.
And I try to diversify the levels of the band. My
Yeah.
town band plays between grade two and grade four. I don't put in a lot of grade four pieces, or the band will balk after a while. But I always throw in a couple because I want to really challenge them and show them that they can do this.
Hmm.
When I throw in some I love to do things with really complicated rhythms. And the band likes it eventually. I mean, at first, they like, how do I do 7/8 to 3/4 to 6/4 to 6/8? Like, how do I do
Hmm.
that?
Yep.
But they learn, and then they feel really good about it. So I do a lot of teaching for that. So that's kind of a roundabout answer, is that I'm really trying to do current band music, a lot of current band music. I really like what's coming out. I think there's a great repertoire of concert band music, a big, just uh, much more than I remember 20 years
Hmm.
ago when I
Sure.
looked. There's so many great composers out there right now.
Hmm.
So I'm always bringing in something a little bit different, challenging their ears a little bit.
That's
I don't
cool.
make them sing, though. That's not gone over well. So, that there are composers, especially school composers, it
Hmm.
compose a lot of school things where the kids are ending up having to sing tones and things. Yeah, it doesn't, I haven't gotten to that point, but I might get there.
Yeah. Got to
Yeah,
start off slow, right?
right, exactly.
Yeah. No, I know that they usually mumble those words like, we're not singers, we're not singers, you know?
But they are.
Yeah, they are. They
They're
can
all
do
good
it.
singers.
Yeah, they can do
Right.
it. I know.
All of them. Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's sometimes peer pressure. I always say that, they're always worried like it really matters, I shouldn't say it that way, but no, like it really does.
Right, right.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome to see how you do in the different challenges of kind of music because I think even though I'll be honest with you, I tend to do a lot of myself, a lot of historical pieces because like recreating different things, but it's nice
Right.
to have but I will say this, some of the older music that's out there is super hard. So it's nice to have like a variety of things, I think. And it's cool that you're doing a lot of, things of today because a lot of them I'll be honest, I've met a lot of community band directors that have that same formula and they do the same thing over and over and over again. You know what I mean?
Right.
Of
I do
tunes,
see
that is.
that as I see programs and the older music, yeah, there's some great music out
Yeah.
there. And we do a lot of I like to find some of the older music that's really a little bit different, like Susan March that people aren't
Yeah.
used to hearing,
Hmm.
or Carl King or Fillmore or something like that.
Yep.
So those I bring in all the time. Carl King being kind of a personal favorite of some of the stuff that I've found, which is really fun to play. There are a lot of fun pieces that he wrote. But yeah, so that would be my older repertoire
Older ones,
generally.
right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, here's
yeah.
a little fun fact, and Kate, you might already know this about Carl King. I always share this fact, because he worked in the circus, and I always tell this on the podium when I'm talking to the audience that he never really liked a lot of his music. It's what he always said. He just, kind of composed it and it was his job. So I always joke about that because when we play his music and hear all this great music that he, composed, and it's like, oh, he
Right.
didn't really like it. And I caught a as an interview in I think it was the early 80s that he was literally saying that. He's like, yeah, I don't really like a lot of my music that I compose. And I'm like, seriously? You know?
I don't know how you go through life that way. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't, I can understand having things that later you're thinking, wow, I wish I
Yeah.
wouldn't have written that. But boy,
Yeah.
not sure how to take that one.
Well,
Yeah.
the only thing I could think of was, and like, the circus sea tunes, they're fast and you got to kind of make a melody. So I don't know if he was just kind of pulling things together to make it work. That's the only thing I could think of, but
Right, right. Yeah, we
just
played
know.
one from an older one of his that was from one of his, I guess he used to do a lot of dance, not just the circus stuff, but before that, when he was doing dances and community dances and
Yeah.
weddings and all that, and he had a book full of tunes, and this was
Yeah.
actually a gallop out of one of those.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
even before his circus time, I mean, maybe it was just his job.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's like he said that, and I would have loved to ask him like, seriously, why? It's
right. Or why did you keep doing it?
that's right.
Right. Yeah. I wonder if
But
he wrote other things that we never knew about.
yeah, I know. I think about that
Mm.
sometimes too.
Mm.
Well, hey, one thing I wanted to kind of shift our gears a little bit is I know, and I'm sure this is the timeline. I think it's the timeline, but I know you were doing, the Nelson Town Band, and then you kind of came up with this idea of doing the New Horizons Band. And I was just interested to hear, obviously to share New Horizons or really for folks who mostly retired. We say mostly because sometimes we get adults of all ages still, but that are beginning their instruments or have played prior and have stopped for a bunch of years, and then kind of come back to it. And I know you have, and I'll say it this way: of the concert I saw was 2018. It was a pretty large group at that point. I mean, it's been a while, but I know you've been a big staple in it. I know you've continued, that program, and I know it's still thriving today. And I was just interested in hearing a little bit more about that, of kind of what, your interest was getting involved with that, and then also, what you do for there and where it's gone. I guess I'll go from there because I'm actually interested because I want to see how far the programs keeps getting bigger and better, that kind of thing.
Right, right, right. We're probably about the same size as 2019.
2019.
Of
Okay.
course, there was a drop in the pandemic, and then we
Yeah,
brought
of
it back
course.
up again. So it's back up to where it was. So where it started was in 2013. In
Okay.
2013,
2013. Okay.
the director of the Sudbury Valley New Horizons Band in Massachusetts,
Okay.
west of Boston, emailed me. I didn't know her, Diane Muffet, and she emailed me because she had found my name on a community band director list, and she was starting New Horizons International, the NEMA, I'll call it NEMA,
Yeah.
so New Horizons
Hmm.
International Music Association. She was part involved in that, and she wanted to start a camp. And she was doing a camp up in Maine at the New England Music Camp, which is in Sydney, Maine, not too far from Waterville, between Waterville and Brunswick.
Okay.
Anyway, right up in
Hmm.
there on Lake
Okay.
Missalensky. And so she was looking for people to go, and she was just going to reach out to all these band directors. And so I put it out to the band, and
Okay.
we're looking at it. It was a week-long band camp, and I thought, oh, this looks like fun. We'll go. So we decided to go, and three or four other people in our band, in the Nelson Town band, decided to
Hmm.
go, and we had a blast. I mean, a whole week of It's basically band camp with cocktail hour. I mean, that's what it is. Like and you have the option of not going to things if you don't want to. I mean, it couldn't be a better situation for a
Right.
camp.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful camp. It's where they run the New England Music Camp during the summer, like an interlocking type of summer program.
Okay.
And then
Hmm.
after that, they have a couple weeks they rent it out to the Boston Youth Symphony.
Oh,
And
cool.
then this adult camp happened. So while we were there, I was at the cocktail hour, the requisite cocktail hour, on the porch of the lodge, and I found and met the founder of New Horizons. And he and I talked, and he said, "You should start a band." A- And he was doing this to a lot of people. I mean,
Yeah.
he was, a
Yeah.
big mover and shaker. And so and the reason he thought I should start a band is because my community band, as we're playing harder and harder music
Hmm.
and playing 20 concerts a summer, a lot of people that haven't played in a really long time or have never played an instrument just couldn't possibly
Right.
show up and play in the band. We rehearsed for 3 months, but at that time, I brought the number down slightly, but we had over 40 pieces in our summer folder. It's a lot of music to learn, and
Hmm.
some of it's really hard.
Yeah.
So it was overwhelming. So I really started this New Horizons program in Keene selfishly to create a feeder band for my community band.
Okay.
That was the
Hmm.
reason I did it. I thought people come up to me after concerts and I'd really love to do this, but I don't know how. I don't remember how to play my instrument, whatever it was. So when I met the founder and he said, "You should definitely do this," I thought, this would be a good idea. Because then I would have a place that people can go when they come to me at concerts and say, "I really want to play, but I haven't played since junior high," and whatever. And so I came back and spent, that was in August 2013, and I found a brass player. I'm all mostly what I am a woodwind player and piano. I really don't play brass
Hmm.
worth anything. So I found a brass player and I said, "Let's start this band." She said, "Great." And we took a year. So we started in September of 2014. And I put flyers up, put it in the local, what they call the shopper news. It's sort of our penny saver here.
Hmm.
And we had just a meet and greet, and I thought no one's going to show up. And we had 25 people show up the
Oh,
first
wow.
day. I couldn't believe it. And I asked a couple of my town band players if they would help mentor the different sections. We
Sure.
met at a church downtown, and we started. That was the beginning of it. And it was what I will say, though, in any New Horizons program is it starts off as one thing and it grows and becomes something else. And so even though I really started this as a feeder band and there was one other thing that was going on too, in addition to people not being able to just drop into my community band,
Hmm.
we have 3 or 4 other community bands in the area. And they were beginning, ours was at that time the largest, and they were beginning to ask players to join the other bands from our band. So they said, "Oh, well, you already have 4 trombones, so will you come play with our band?" And I thought, well, there must be enough people around here to fill all these bands.
Right.
There's got to be enough people
Right.
there's a lot of musicians in this area, people that played music when they were younger. So there's
Yeah.
got to be enough people to play in all the town bands. We don't need to have people play in multiple ones
Yep.
if they don't want to, or leave one because it's bigger and they need them in the other one, all that kind of stuff. So I thought,
Right.
this is the way I'm going to do it. So that was my reason for starting. But it did become its own entity. I did have lots of people join the local community bands, including my own. And so the community band, my town band, did grow quite a bit. But those people, the most interesting thing, and my husband rightly told me the first year that we did this, he said, "You understand your business model is doomed for failure because people will join the New Horizons band and then they'll join your community band and they'll quit your New Horizons band. You're going to be recruiting continuously."
Hmm.
And so what actually happened was people did join the town band. A
Hmm.
couple of them left the New Horizons band. Most of them did not.
Oh, wow.
So they stayed in both. And sometimes, if they felt as though the level of the New Horizons band was getting too easy, they'd switch instruments and go to a different instrument.
Wow.
So the end story is they didn't leave, and it was a different type of program. It's much more education based. It's
Hmm.
less performance based.
Hmm.
It's um, much more what would be the word? It's much more relaxed.
Mhm.
we take time. We take real time. We have 8 or 10 pieces for a whole 12-week semester, and we take time on the pieces.
Right.
The Nelsontown Band, I can take some time, and then some of them, if you don't know this one, the other 25 people do, we're going to move on. It means
Right.
sometimes we just have to, we're more performance based. So New Horizons band's more relaxed. We run all winter. We run in town. My town band is out of town. So in the winter, most people live nearby. And I think some people said, I just really like spending some time on some easier music
Hmm.
and being able to really dig into it and be able to play every note. So that was how it started. What you might or might not know is that last year, for the last 4 or 5 years, I've had a couple of players, mostly trumpet players, in this particular case, say, "Oh, you've got to start a jazz band. Oh, you've got to start a jazz band." And I'm thinking, I do not have time to do this. And but last year in the fall, I finally broke down and decided to start a jazz ensemble. And now we haven't started up for this semester. We're starting up next week,
Hmm.
but it grew exponentially the second semester of last year. So I have a very large jazz ensemble and a concert band. I also have something else that I did with my New Horizons band is the first half hour as we change between the bands. Uh, we use classrooms at the synagogue where we rehearse,
Hmm.
and people do chamber music. And they
Oh,
really
wow.
like that. And it's all self-directed. They do their own, or they can just practice their music. It doesn't
Oh,
matter, but they
wow.
can
That's
come
cool.
early. It is. It's very nice. People, the flute players always have their setup and they have their room and they do quartets, whatever. They do whatever they can do. And sometimes they perform and sometimes they don't. Doesn't really matter,
That's
just
cool.
for fun. So that's kind of the story of how that evolved.
And involved. Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was just wondering about that. I know that was going to be one of my questions. If, you've seen a lot of people, leave and go elsewhere and play different groups, but it's kind of cool that because I knew your husband at one time when I was there was playing in it. I know that, and I know, like, I know I forget what instrument he was on. And it's been a while, but
Right. So he plays bass and saxophone in his regular life.
yep.
For New Horizons, he did a little bit of that at the beginning,
Okay.
mostly bass. So we always have a tuba, but if the tuba player's not there, he'll bring his bass and play.
Okay.
But he has learned flute in the last few years.
Oh, okay.
And then the jazz band didn't have a drummer last year, so he is teaching himself drum set. That's how it's working. Yeah. So one of the nicest things that a thing that bring back to community where I realize how important it is that I will sometimes be out in town at a concert or an event,
Mhm.
and I'll see people together that I know didn't know each other before the New Horizons band. So there's
That's
been a lot
cool.
of connections made. I don't have an age requirement except thinking you're an adult is really all for mine. My rehearsals are in the evening. Lots of New Horizons bands rehearse during the day.
Yeah. Hmm.
So if you rehearse during the day, generally the age skews a little bit older.
Hmm.
And if you rehearse at night, I have a lot more, I have a larger diversity of age, but I
Hmm.
know that there's some older people that aren't driving at night that I don't accommodate. But it
Hmm.
was the only way I could do it when I started. So it's hard to get the
Yeah.
perfect situation set up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, that's awesome to hear how you have it set up, with that. I know that's something I always think about. I know historically, obviously, I think most of them are during the day just because it's retired folks. But I know that I know like I was like that too when I've been involved with them. A lot of them have been all different ages, because that's
Right,
that's
right.
cool too. Because I think, and this is something I wanted to bring up, and I'm sure I already know your stance on this, but that's one thing I think is cool. Like, where else in the world can you go and work with multiple age people together in the same thing, doing one thing together? I mean, do you ever think of that?
Right.
Like,
Right, right.
it's like,
Well, it's like school. It's the one class that you have the same teacher for 4 years in high school. Like
mhm,
it's, this whole and most high schools, not all, but most high schools, you're in class with all 4 years, and is
mhm,
everyone from ninth to 12th grade. So it's a way. It's just like a bigger extension of
yeah,
that feeling of community. Yeah, it's a really It's really interesting. I really love having the age diversity in both of my bands. I also wish I could accommodate everybody. There are some programs. I know the Portsmouth, New Hampshire program has a beginner, advanced beginner Friday morning
Oh, okay.
group as well as their Tuesday night group. So
Okay.
they have room and people for both. So they
Got it.
can accommodate people. So as people maybe in the night group, if they would like to, if they would prefer not to drive at night, then they can come during the Friday class. And some of them, if they were already really accomplished on an instrument, will play a different one there.
That's
Some of my
cool.
players in my New Horizons band have moved to percussion, which I think is a wonderful thing to do when they feel like it's just too easy in the section that they're in. We really restrict it. I really stayed at grade two music, maybe
Hmm.
2.5 if it's not too bad. But it never goes up. My band does not increase in level on my New Horizons band. And so I'll say, well, what should I play next? I said, I don't think anybody goes wrong with playing percussion. You should understand what they're doing back there. So,
That's cool.
and it's great. I don't think they have any idea
Yeah.
what goes on. If you don't play in the percussion section, you have no idea
Yep.
what that's like.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, nothing wrong with having to count and do the same thing for 3 minutes. That's
Yeah, I know.
good skill. It's a
It is
good
a good
skill.
skill.
Yeah,
Or
yeah, for
sometimes we
sure.
even say just keeping a beat on the bass drum. I mean, everybody thinks it's simple, but it really isn't.
It is
You know?
not simple. It is not simple. Absolutely. Yes.
We just had a conversation with this a side note, and again, talking about parades. Well, I'm a brass player, and I got asked, and I played bass drum on that. And the reason being is they needed somebody, obviously, and they know that, and I don't want to say this the wrong way, they know I can keep a beat because there's some people that who are great at their instruments. And I'm not saying they can't keep a beat. When you give them a different instrument, all that goes out the window. you
Right.
know
Right.
so and because I've done it, I've done it before in a parades with bass drum and stuff. I always joke it's like, yeah, I get it. And of course, but still the easiest thing, like the roll off, I like have to think, all right, I got to remember what is, even though I've heard it 100 times and told students 100 times how to
When do
do
you
it.
play that bass drum? Right, exactly. When does that bass drum come in?
Yep.
Yeah, it is. It's not easy. It's
No.
not easy, and you have to learn how to play so many different instruments back there.
Yeah.
You have to learn, what the proper way is to actually play a triangle and all the different sounds you can
Yeah.
make on it. And that, yeah, it's very interesting. So percussion's been one place I've found some of my more advanced New Horizons
That's
people.
cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it's very
Yeah.
cool.
That's neat. And then if I may ask about it, how'd you, and I know you keep going back to community and how you'll see folks out in there, but I was just interested if you wanted to share just a little bit about some of your experiences that you've had with either the town band or the New Horizons band. Just interested in just hearing, of some of those memorable memories that you have, because I say that because I think a lot of times our life's about those experiences, right? And I think it's just like how you say of like you talked about one of them already being, playing a different instrument or, making sure you can play all the notes and those kind of things. I was just wondering if you had anything in that realm to kind of share. Yeah.
Oh, some
I'm putting
memories.
on,
Oh,
yeah, and I'm putting
something.
you on
Yeah.
putting you on the spot a little bit here.
Put me on the spot. Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think. I think one of the so one of the really funny things that's happened in this band is I
Yeah.
have a tuba player that joined. He's in both of my bands,
Okay.
and he joined. I'm trying to remember how many years ago. It was less than 6 or 7, but I'm not sure exactly what year. He retired as a architect for Disney.
Oh,
So he was helped designing parks, like
okay.
rides and things. So he's a
Oh,
pretty
that's
interesting
cool.
guy.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that he had been keeping notes in his notebook of funny things that either I said or the other conductor said.
Oh,
And so,
wow.
when you're conducting, you don't realize what you're saying. And so at the end of the semester, he'll send me a PDF with all my quotes in it and my other conductor's quotes. And I have just never laughed so hard because what I find in New Horizons that really helps is a sense of humor. I mean, things can go really wrong, and you just have to laugh it off and move on. And
Yeah.
everybody, it's really important that everybody feels like they're contributing
Hmm.
and that there's not that judgment there. But when I read how I get around mistakes, I mean,
Yeah.
some of them were, hilarious. And like if, so everybody's got a rest there. If you come in, you will be playing a solo, and I would just stop it there. Everybody would go, "Yeah, you will be playing a solo," or I think that the one that actually cracked me up the most and said, "Well, I think that's a little more dissonance than the composer intended." And we just left it there. And because there were just like this clash of notes, but there were a lot of other ones that were, I can't even remember all of them. They were funny. So I find those really good memories for the group. I mean, there's a lot of laughing in the group, and I think it really helps. It really
Yeah.
helps people. I know we've had lots of people that have had experiences, family losses, that kind of thing, and then they come
Mhm.
back and they leave for a little while, and then they come back, and it's just such a joy to see them come back. And they come back because they just love doing it.
Yeah.
They miss their friends. They miss playing music together. But yeah, specific memories, that's a tough
Well,
one.
that's a good one,
Um,
actually. Yeah, because it just reminded me, when you're getting all the quotes that you said over a semester, per se. I think of public school because I've had my students do that when I was teaching in public school. They're like, "Do you know you say that?" And you don't
yeah,
know what you're saying when you're on the podium.
no.
It's like anything can come out. So,
Exactly. A lot of things can come out, and sometimes you catch them, but sometimes you don't catch them. I mean, he's caught some really funny ones. He's got some really funny ones, and every time he sends them, I just think, "Oh my
yeah,
gosh, I
that's
can't
cool.
believe I actually said that." Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. Yeah, and I know it's funny. I remember with my high school band director, I think some of them were up on the wall. So I know you can't do that because you're renting facility, but someday you'll have to.
Right. Put up a couple of the really good ones. Yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah,
good
yeah, yeah,
ones.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the wisdoms.
Yeah.
Of.
The wisdoms, yeah, yeah. I wonder. Yeah, I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. There were a
Yeah,
couple doozies in there.
yeah,
But it was the funniest thing was that I had no idea.
yep.
But even better than that, he has a lot of friends in California and Southern California that are in the LA Philharmonic and are studio musicians out there.
Oh,
He knows. So he sends them all of our quotes.
oh, that's cool.
Yes. So, because they don't always play for conductors anymore that are like making jokes about how
Yeah,
things are going.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
But yeah.
Very cool. Well, hey, as we're kind of wrapping this up, I wanted to ask you, and this is something that I'm sure you come across with. You've already kind of mentioned it in the podcast. I end up asking a lot of folks this that are on this podcast. I'm very big supporter about people getting involved with music, continue making music, whatever it is, does not necessarily, it could be really any art. I always say that anything that's creative, as you were saying earlier, whether
Right.
coming back to your instrument, singing, piano, whatever, orchestra, strings, whatever. I know we're into the band world, but it doesn't have to necessarily be that. I was just interested in what you say to folks who have either an interest in coming back and playing, or I call it the recruitment phase, meaning that, they're kind of sort of have an interest, but they're not sure. They might be scared of it, or, no, I don't know. I don't think so, that kind of thing. Not that you're forcing, that's not what I'm saying, but more or less, the interest is there of what you say to, what you say to folks to get them to come out and make music as we wrap this up.
I think the most important thing is that it's for them and it's their decision and they are welcome to try us out. And we would welcome them there no matter where they are. And it is nerve-wracking to get back to it. I mean, I think about this with New Horizons particularly, especially people who come back after 30, 40, and sometimes longer since they
Hmm.
played an instrument. These are people that very well had successful lives, whether careers in or out of the workplace or whatever it was, have done a lot of really important things and gotten really good at things in their lives. And they're going to, after they retire, um, do something that they're not good at. And they know it's a long road to getting back to sounding good. It's not easy to get back to sounding like a good musician or to be happy with the way you sound. There's going to be a learning curve. And I have such admiration for people who are willing to take that risk, because it's nothing like getting to, 70 years old and then saying, I'm going to do something I'm terrible at. and or I'm terrible at right at this moment. So I
Mhm.
think what I do for that is I do like to introduce them to other people in the group. I think that's even more important because I'm just the conductor. So I already know how to play. So it's hard for me to tell them, oh, you're going to be just fine because you might be happy with how you go and you might not be. So mostly I just said, look, I would love for you to just give it a try and just see if you like it. And maybe it's for you, maybe it's not for you. So really, I think that's the test because I don't want anybody there that is really uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Um, because maybe they might find something else to do. They may do another type of artistic thing. They're just experimenting with where they're going to go in their next few years. We're just one option. But yeah, I think that's the easiest thing is that, and it's the motto of New Horizons International is your best is good enough. So just come and do what you can.
Yeah,
Don't contribute what you can.
that's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. And I appreciate how you say that, where they can come in and it's all about them and just wanting to be involved with it and having folks who, not you, that are
Right.
performing because I think that's important because yeah, it's not an easy task. I mean, making music, I mean, there's years and years you can put into it. I always say it, I'm still a student of music.
Yeah,
I can
me
play my
too.
instrument well. I'm still a decent conductor, but there's still tons of things that I'm learning about it, and it takes time. And I don't know if I'm going to
Right.
ever learn it all, so
I'm sure I'm going to.
yeah.
I was looking at the years and I'm like, no, there's no way I can
Yeah.
learn as much as I would love to learn. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot to learn. But I think it's really important that it's not about my program and me. This has to be for people in the seats. This is for them. And as you probably know, because I'm on the New Horizons International Board of Directors, and I run well, I'm the head of the finance committee and also the events committee. So we do camps and trips. And so I meet all these other New Horizons players from all over mostly North America, a few outside, and
Cool.
they're all those same people. It's wonderful. I mean, there are people that go to every camp that we do, plus camps that other groups do, like Association of Contraband, so some things, and they just spend their summer going to camps, playing music all the time. It's wonderful.
Yeah,
It's
that is
just great. This
wonderful.
is this is their retirement, and they
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's wonderful. I know it's great to hear that,
yeah.
because I think that's the reason why we create these programs so that they can all come out and play and just like you say, just for them to make music. So awesome.
Right. It is fun for me too. I mean, it's not like I'm just doing a community service. I mean, I wouldn't do it if it wasn't really fun
Yeah.
and really rewarding. It's really fun for me, and of course, in New Horizons in particular, and even in the town band, they want to learn. I mean, they're there to learn.
Yeah.
I don't get. It's actually hard to keep up. Like at these camps, I often teach at the camp, so I'll teach classes, and
Yeah.
I have to be really, really well prepared because
Yep.
they will challenge me and they will want to know more. So
Yep.
I have to be ready to give more because it's such an eager group of learners. They're ready to continue and get better. It's the same thing in my New Horizons band. They're always trying to do better, so I have to be on top of it. I love that challenge. And it's rewarding to hear everybody play together. I mean, it really is. It's just amazing to me. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, Especially when they didn't think they could do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And sometimes they don't think they can do it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Donna, thank you so much, for being on this podcast. I really appreciate, you telling us, your story of music making and what you're offering for the community and yourself. It's good for all of that. I do want to say I've always been watching you bop in and doing all kinds of different things for the community. It's just been great to see that, and it's awesome and continue doing it. I know you love doing it, and it's great that you kind of found your niche and you're doing that because it's just makes my heart warm warm because I love seeing people out there making music and helping others, and that's what you're doing.
Right.
Because not that other people can't do it, but you're offering great things for great people. And that's in a world today where, not always that happens. It's nice to see that continuing. So thank you from that, for doing all of that. So, and it's also great to see you, involved. I didn't even know about the New Horizons board. See, I learned something else new today. I didn't know that you're
Yeah.
up there. I knew you were involved with it. I just didn't know you were on the board. That's cool too.
I am on the board. I've been on the board for 3 years. I have another year, I think, on the board.
Oh,
It's a lot of work, but it's a great, I mean, it's a great connection. It's a great
yeah.
program. Yes. So, in fact, I was doing all that work just this morning, and I'm really excited to see that you've got this Bethlehem Steel band. But I remember your program up here in New Hampshire that you talked about that band.
Yeah, it was
That's cool
actually
that there's
Yeah,
a
it's cool.
reunion
It's
band.
actually, yeah, what we did is it was research I did, and it was last year was our first performance. And what ended up happening was I had a friend, and there's a music festival in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, called Music Fest. And I I just asked, I'm like, could we do a concert there somewhere, and not for necessarily Music Fest? And she's like, yeah, let's play Music Fest. And I was like, okay. So, and that's a pretty big
Wow.
deal. And we had a lot of participants to come out and do it. And now we're doing it in a national a museum that's still on the same plant, but it's an industrial museum and
Oh,
National
on the
Industrial.
Bethlehem Steel plant.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
So it's actually, they're in one of the buildings, and they have a steel weekend, which is where they have a open house, and they have all kinds of different steel things going on. And we're going to be performing there for the Sunday afternoon. Yeah, Sunday afternoon concert at 2 o'clock for the audience that comes for that. So it's kind of neat. So
That's very cool. Yes, I'm only familiar. I think they were pretty big operation when my father went
yep.
to school at Lehigh.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
cool.
that's
Yeah, I
very
know
cool.
I know, and it existed in the early 1900s. So we actually try to recreate we all the music except for about one or two of them are the original tunes that they played. So that's what's cool
Oh,
about
very
it. So
nice. That's
yeah,
very
so
cool.
yeah, but
Yeah,
I do get the deer and headlights look like, wow, they had some hard tunes. And I'm like, yes, you can do it.
you,
You know,
you can do it. That's right.
just
Wow,
because
why are there five flats on the page? Yes, all of those questions.
all those
Yeah,
questions, and I'm like, yep.
yeah, they can
So
do it.
yes,
They
they
can do
can.
it. Yeah, for
So.
sure.
Well, all right. Well, hey, thank you so much. And I wish you luck in your next concerts and keep offering those programs.
Thank you, Josh. This was fun.